Good morning. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the AI Interconnect podcast, where we explore the people, the platform, the possibility shaping the future of business, tech, and AI. I'm your host, Lauren, and today's guest is someone at the intersection of smart infrastructure, wireless innovation, and human centric design. Joining me is Fabio Zaniboni, founder and CEO of BubblyNet, a company we're thinking how building function with decentralized wireless system that are smarter, faster, and more scalable. Fabio, it's been a really looking forward to this, and thanks for joining me.
Well, hi, Lauren. Thank you very much for having me. That's it's going to be a very exciting talk.
Exactly. I can't wait, and it's not often, and I think it could be the first one. I've been doing a little bit than 50 episodes, and you're the first European, I think. All of the others were maybe third generation or European, but you're a real Italian, and I will enjoy this with the same culture. Um,
Yes.
let's start, Fabio. Let's start with your story. You've got a fascinating background in wireless system and engineering. What was the moment, or maybe the problem, that led you to create BubblyNet?
Well, I'm an engineer by education and born and raised in between Italy, South America, Europe, Africa, and always very interested in how uh, different cultures um, behave and how different cultures attack different problems in different ways. And when I was here in the US, mid 2000s, 2007, 2010, we were doing high-end yachts. And at the time, we were doing lighting and controls for yachts. And I started realizing that controls could do way more than what was the original application on that kind of space. And around 2011, 2012, we were doing different kind of technology, low voltage, PoE, so power over Ethernet. And I had several clients that were very high-end clients that were really pushing the envelope, pushing the limit of the technology. And that's when I realized, well, we need to find a way to control what happens on the built environment. It's a yacht, it's a cruise ship, it's a building, it's an hotel, it's a hospital, it's an office space. We need to have a technology that will allow us to have more and more data points and more sensors and more feedbacks. And that's when I say, well, I really need to go wireless, and investigated many different kind of technologies, and then came up with Bluetooth mesh that is an open standard. And as a European, as you know, we have Linux and we have many standards coming from Europe. There is this concept of an open standard is like a huge pie, and everybody contributes to that pie. And so a small slice of that pie is much more rewarding than having your own little proprietary pie. And that is one on the vendor side. But on the client side, the client receives a service that would be impossible from a single company. So what we do today in BubblyNet, it's way beyond what a single company could do. Because the standard, the technology that we use has been contributed from companies like Google, Ericsson, Amazon, Silicon Labs, Nordic, and so on. So you have different players on all the different layers of technology, from the silicon level up to the user interface, and all these different companies, huge companies, they contribute to a standard that then gives you much more value, because everybody contributes with what they do best. And so this is a little bit how I got to what we do today, what we do with BubblyNet. And of course, well, the name BubblyNet comes from a network of bubbles, because the goal of a technology is to be able to create around each one of us a bubble of your ideal parameters. Nowadays, we are learning more and more about biology, human biology. We know how different frequencies in terms of electromagnetic frequencies in the visible spectrum and not so visible spectrum when we're talking about infrared or and so on. They like different lights, different color of light can trigger cortisol, can trigger melatonin, can increase or decrease the metabolism of a person. And similarly, you can create effects that are psychological effects, but also biological effects by infusing an environment with specific frequencies in the audio spectrum. So when we're talking about brown noises and blue noises and different kind of noises, so it's not only automating a building where you have elevators that are optimized and your HVAC is optimized and your lighting is optimized, but also you are taking the building envelope to a next level where you're really addressing topics like the biology of the occupants of the building that has never been covered before, and so today you can create this ideal bubble, and that is going to be different for each one of us. I'm European and I like my HVAC at 75 degrees. Most of my American colleagues, they love it at 71. So imagine now I can go around this building. This building, of course, is all network with BubblyNet, and depending on the different areas of the building, the room where I am will adapt to what are my parameters, and so similarly, depending on age and depending on extractions on people like light that is brighter or dimmer, and upstairs here on the second floor we have an open space where we have developers and we have engineers and we have people at marketing that do all day long do renderings. Well, each one of them, they want to have a different level of light intensity on the desk, depending on what they do. So having the capability of having lighting changing, and also because we have sharing desk, because we have remote employees that come from time to time here. So having a building that dynamically changes based on your personal needs, that is the next frontier that we're attacking.
I really like it. This is awesome, and very interesting development up to where you are right now. Then, what were you seeing in the market that others were missing when you created BubblyNet?
Well, I think what we are addressing is the relationship between IoT technology and biology, and that it's a very interesting topic that has many ramifications. And to give you an example, a few months ago, I was in DC discussing a project for a large hotel chain. And of course, in hospitality, it's all about what is the next level for guest experience. And we start talking, and sometimes you develop a topic way beyond what you were expecting were going to be boundaries. And to make the story short, we end up by relating the color of the light with the beats per minute of the music, with the essence to be diffused on the different areas of your tale. So the idea was, well, in the morning, what the guest wants. Well, in the morning, most of our guests are business guests. They want to be energized. They want to start the morning right. So let's have a light that is pretty bright, slightly bluish, and because it's energizing, it is triggering a series of effects on your body. The body reacts like you will react when early in the morning you see the first sun. And so you get that energy. And then the discussion was, well, that type of lighting will pair perfectly with so many beats per minute. So you want to have a music that is pretty fast, and pretty light, so that you get also that next input in terms of sound. And then from there we were, well, okay, and what kind of fragrances? Because what you're trying to do, you're trying to attack all the different senses of the human body. And so we were discussing about fragrances and different fragrances that trigger different emotions and different feelings, like freshness, richness. Anyway, it was very, very interesting because we are addressing the building almost like if it was it's more than a box where things happen, but it's an ingredient of what is happening, and it can be a catalyst of what you intend to do within the building space. And so being able to merge technology with the human biology, I think it's just fascinating. And here and there is studies from Berkeley to MIT about how recovery after surgery can improve based on certain parameters of your room, or how arithmetic scores on schools can increase or decrease based on acoustic distractions in classrooms, how productivity increase or decrease based on the amount of oxygen and CO2 that you have on a space. So here and there is university studies. I don't see yet, and that's what we are promoting, a commercial application and a real application of all these kind of topics.
That's great, and that's so interesting. The relationship between engineering and biology. That's I haven't thought about this, but I heard about these sensors based on light, I think. But the three together with music as well makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it makes me think about a disco, but but this is
Yes,
more for.
Of course, Laurent, it can be as strong as a disco. Of course, there is a very interesting concept that is called calm technology from the late 90s, and very interesting from the
therapy.
Yes, it's not really therapy. It was at the time of technology. It comes from the Hewlett-Packard Research Center, and they say in the 90s, well, in the 21st century, the rarest commodity is not going to be technology; it's going to be attention. And because they realize that going from the mainframe to your desktop, to a laptop, to a smartphone, to a wearable, technology is giving you so many messages, is grabbing so much of your attention that then you tend to lose attention to the important things that you want to or you intend to accomplish. So we are always very, very careful, although we're using all these things that I was mentioning to you earlier, we are always very careful not to attract attention towards the technology. For us, that is very important. So when we were talking about lighting, we have lighting nowadays. We use specific LED chips where the lighting appearance is always the same color, always the same intensity, but because we're changing the mix of frequencies, now we're able to trigger, increase the metabolism or make you relax and calm down and so on. But you are not going to be distracted. You're not going to see that. Similarly, for the music, you can have a music that is a very, very light background, almost perceivable, but still it creates and it triggers those kind of emotions and behaviors that you want to take place on that building environment.
Wow, that's fascinating. I love it. I'm going to be maybe repeating myself a little bit, but let's break down BubblyNet for someone hearing about it for the first time. How will you explain what you do? Then you did it already a little bit, but what makes your model different from traditional building automation platform? And on our show, we interview quite some, but I already see completely different from the others. But I want to hear it from you, obviously.
Yes, I would say that the first big differentiator is we decided to go wireless, and we're sticking to wireless big time. Of course, there is all the challenges of signal, there is all the challenges of traffic, there is all the challenges of security and so on. But going wireless, we think that it's the only direction where we are going to be able to achieve what we were discussing earlier. Why? Because as you are adding more and more functionalities to every single space, if you will go wired, it will be more Cat6, it will be more wires. There will be a cost of infrastructure that will be just prohibitive. Okay, so we decided very early on to go wireless, and we've been very, very lucky because of what Bluetooth came up. Bluetooth is the same nonprofit organization behind your AirPods and your car wireless and so on. They have been releasing from 2017 up to today different standards, more and more sophisticated and better standards for IoT, for industrial grade applications. So super protected, encrypted, and so on, to the point where we do airports, we do federal buildings, we did one of the largest cybersecurity companies in North America, their headquarters. We are able to do these projects that require a high level of security and reliability. So the first point, when you were asking what are the differentiators, is definitely wireless. The second point is we really make sure that we keep at the edge, so at the device level, as much computing as possible. Of course, it's the easy way to go IoT is just put everything on the cloud and have cloud controlling. Okay, to go edge, of course, it's more sophisticated. It requires more development, but we believe that going edge allows for a multitude of benefits. The first benefit, of course, is when I'm able to control and I'm able to elaborate my data at the edge level. Of course, I'm doing it right there. I'm not going up and down the cloud. So the amount of energy, the amount of computing power that I'm using is just a small fraction. The other big benefit is because we're computing at the edge level. Automatically, that computation is a decentralized computation. So you don't have a single point of failure, a single point, your cloud system where all the information goes up, all the information goes down, because most of the information is managed at the device level. So you have this next level where because it's decentralized, if you have let's say a man in the middle or any other kind of a cyber attack, you are going to be able, like if a cyber threat is factual on a device, is not going to compromise all the remaining devices. So what you're giving is a much more reliable solution, just because everything is decentralized. The other big benefit of going wireless and going edge is that now at the edge level, I can hard code, per se, on the hardware, the privacy level that I want. So let's say that I'm using an acoustic sensor. Well, an acoustic sensor could be a mic, and I could be just collecting all the information, pushing to the cloud, and now I'm able to have on the cloud all the content that has been grabbed by that mic. But let's say that I'm in an hotel and I want just to have acoustic sensors for gunshot detection. Well, in that case, I just need to detect if there is a gunshot. I just want to detect if there is this big spike of decibels. Okay, I don't need all that other content. So I can just have a sensor, and can I put a filter that will just say yes, no to gunshot, and because of that, that device itself, hardware-wise, cannot now impact privacy by pushing to the cloud, the content that is happening, let's say in an hotel room. So now imagine you are in Vegas and you want to have a gunshot detection and you're putting a mic on every single room. Well, imagine if every single room of that hotel would be able to stream up to the cloud everything that happens on that room. Of course, that is a lack of privacy. So back to wireless, back to edge, and so on, there is some very interesting benefits in terms of security, in terms of privacy, in terms of technology and functionalities. Thinking about all the energy that nowadays is required to run these big cloud servers. Well, if now I'm pushing to the cloud just a small fraction, what we do is we have also a cloud system, of course, but we make sure that what we push to the cloud is the minimum amount of data necessary for the functionalities we want to have on the cloud. So I would say, sorry if it took too long to answer your question, but the main differentiator is the wireless, and with the wireless, how we did it with the mesh, and by going mesh, get into edge computing, and then because now we are on the edge, we are able to filter, clean the amount of data that we're pushing to the cloud with all these benefits I was mentioning earlier.
No, this is great. It's very understandable, and even for a layman like me. But I love it. What what type of spaces, you mentioned it a little bit, or clients are you typically working with? Are there verticals where your approach is especially effective more than others?
Yes, I would say that, of course, the the two areas where personally I love to be involved, for almost like humanitarian reasons, are educational and healthcare.
I
And
see.
we've been doing some projects on both areas. There is I I had more friction in getting these technology adopted in these areas than, for instance, commercial spaces. So office spaces all day long, and because on office spaces and other kind of um, applications, you can use this technology to reduce energy consumption. You can use this technology to comply with codes right now. Like New York City, you have codes like uh, local law 88, local law 97. You have AJ8, JA8, sorry, in California. Like in the US, you start having more and more codes that require, well, if nobody's in the room, you don't need to have those lights on. If nobody's in the room, why you want to keep your air conditioner at 71 degrees? And so the adoption of a technology allowing you to save upwards of 30% on your energy bill automatically makes the technology affordable, because now your return on investment is pretty fast. So back to the question, I would say commercial real estate, number one. Probably at the same level, also hospitality, because of code, but also with guest experience. Because what it would have been a huge investment for a five-star hotel or a four-star hotel to have a full a guest room management system nowadays, because it's wireless and because of technology, reducing every year the cost. Those little microchips that we use, they are every year more powerful and cheaper, so technology is more and more affordable. Now you have the beauty of tapping the key on the door. The room already knows that you are entering the door. You are entering the room. You open the door. Your curtains open towards the view that you may have on that room. Lights gently turn on and get to the specific brightness level for that time of the day, and you can have music starting. Your HVAC sets to the last setting point that you manually define before leaving the room. So you can have a very, like, you get a white glove experience, and you really feel that you are on a property that is a five-star property. So you have that, and the other side of the coin is the service, your OPEX, your operating costs on your property are going down. And they're going down because the state of your guest room, is it occupied, is not occupied? Is it rented or is not rented? Is it on do not disturb, or somebody press a button, make up my room? And all these can be visible on a tablet, so your cleaning services just go to the rooms that are available without having to knock in doors and checking and disturbing guests and so on. So you can optimize activities, you can optimize energy consumption. There is a variety of financial benefits beyond the benefit, of course, of having a better guest experience and more repetitive business and word of mouth and so on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And very understandable. Then, you're touching a little bit of everything except residential, but offices, healthcare, education, hospitality. I mean, it's understandable. I love it. Then let's let's talk challenges for a second, because no good idea goes unpunished. And what what have been some of the biggest roadblock or resistant points, especially when you're pitching decentralized system in a world that's still largely centralized?
I would say that probably the number one roadblock is still the the suspicion clients have on new technology. I remember several years ago we did a huge project, hundreds of thousands of square feet, and contractor calls in and say, "Well, you didn't ship complete." I say, "Well, we ship complete." I say, "Where are all your racks? Where is all your equipment?" And say, "Well, there is no racks, there is no equipment. Where are your panels? There is no panels." And he's like, "What are you talking about? No, we have all this room that we prepared, and we're expecting your material, and you're not shipping the material. Are you teasing me?" I say, "No, the concept of a distributed system is that every device that you put on that building has its own intelligence. And as a matter of fact, the more devices you put, the more intelligence you have. It's almost opposite to the usual traditional legacy way where, okay, I put a rack and have so many addresses. And if I put too many addresses, if I put too many devices, now I'm running out of addresses, I need to put another rack. And so I would say that number one probably is that wireless is still considered, I would feel almost like it is like, you remember 15, 20 years ago when companies start having all their servers on the cloud, and you will have the majority of the market saying, "Well, it's not secure, it's up on the cloud. We prefer to have our servers in our garage, like in our basement, or whatever." And nowadays, everybody knows that on the cloud is way more secure than to have it on your basement, unless you are like a huge company that can have a full IT team just dedicated to your internal systems. So on the wireless is similar. You will have people considering, well, if it's wireless, everybody can listen to it. And it was kind of interesting. We were doing this cybersecurity company project, and they were telling me, "Fabio, people think that wired is protected, but you can apply for a job. You get to a conference room, and if you are good, you just unplug a phone and plug your laptop, and in a few seconds you're already inside the system." So they think cable is fine, but you go around buildings and you see all these ports, and they're not locked. And wireless, yes, you can capture those packets, but if you are at a 256-bit encryption, what are you going to do with that? And the system that we use is quite sophisticated. Every message has a counter. That means that even if a hacker was able to get a device, bring it home, break the encryption key, and then take the device, put it back on the ceiling, well, and when the device will start operating again, the network will see, oh, the device was out of reach for so long, and when the device starts communicating with an old counter, the network itself will blacklist the device automatically. So we're talking earlier about man in the middle, like or even like a repeat attack. You are outside the building and you grab packets of information and say, okay, now I know which commands to turn on lights, turn off the lights, and now I should be able to replay those packages. Well, whenever you replay a package, you are replaying a package with an old counter, so they're going to be discarded by the network. So wireless has been evolved quite a bit. The fact that the Bluetooth released in 2017 and then in 2023 different standards for industrial grade is because yes, in the early 2000s, Bluetooth released the first standard around, I think it was 2010, when it released BLE, so Bluetooth Low Energy, so you could have a battery-powered devices and so on. And it became pretty evident quickly that, yes, you can have these standards for consumer-grade products. You can have these standards for do-it-yourself home automation. But if you intend to use that technology for a 20-story building or for an airport, well, now that same standard cannot apply. So these non-profit released more and more specifications. So now you have a very, very solid platform. So I would say number one is the non-natural, as you were mentioning. Everybody used to have a server, used to have a cloud. Still, most of the architecture is a centralized architecture. So number one is to wrap up your mind around what is a distributed system, and number two, understand that wireless it's a solution that is as solid as your most reliable wired system.
That's well recorded. I love it. And basically, how then? Let's move on. Let's now. This wouldn't be the AI Interconnect podcast if we didn't dive into AI side of the story. How are you thinking about AI within your systems, or as a layer on top of what you're really doing?
Yes, AI is going to not only accelerate the adoption of IoT and our technology, but it's going to also improve drastically the service that this technology can deliver. Give you a few examples. Last year, we got an AI agent and we trained it on all our technical information and all our technical documentation, and our board with all the customer service calls and so on. And we delivered late last year, and that agent now is as good or better to some of our best engineers for customer service. So yes, we still have a human voice if you want to call for support, but we have as well a solution that is, of course, 24/7, can talk over 100 different languages, and is, like, as you know, in a fraction of a second, can figure out what's going on with your system. So that was one. Last quarter, we released an AI solution for HVAC. And the big advantage, let me go back a little bit. So we're talking about distributed systems, and we're talking about all the data points. IoT can generate an incredible amount of information. And then the problem becomes how that information is going to be actionable. Because in order to have actionable information, that information needs to be directed, needs to be clear, needs to be simplified. And AI is able to do that. And not only AI is able to do that, but AI can also be agentic, meaning that it can act upon. So the model that we released last quarter, based on the use of a building, the system recognize what is the inertia of the building, recognize how the building operates. This is strictly for HVAC for now. How the building operates based on outside temperatures. And based on that, can maximize energy savings and optimize the solution. So instead of having the old days where you will have a schedule on your HVAC that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, so that by, let's say, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, you have the right temperature for your employees. Well, now the AI model, based on the outside temperature, based on when people start getting to the building, can decide, well, instead of keeping the building over the weekend at, let's say, 75 degrees, I'm going to get it to 78 or 80 degrees. And then instead of starting HVAC at 6, I'm going to start at 5:30. So by 8 o'clock, everything is going to be fine. So AI is able to do all those calculations based on the inertia of the building, based on the occupancy of the building, based on, if somebody gets in the morning and they keep on lowering the HVAC, the temperature of the thermostat, well, why do we need to have somebody doing that every single time? So after the second or third time of when you see these repetitive behaviors, well, AI can take care of those behaviors by changing the settings of your building. So that is what we've been doing on HVAC, because HVAC is nowadays your number one energy hungry, let's say, functionality inside the building. But then that can be applied to lighting systems, can be applied to your AV, can be applied to your elevators, and so on. So for sure, AI will be very present in the IoT space in the next coming years, because the results and the benefits in terms of energy consumption, in terms of user experience and so on, are way beyond what we could have done just by going manual. We have a strong cloud infrastructure that does all the analysis, all the monitoring, all the graphics of your energy, your occupancy, your building is being occupied, not occupied, how many people are inside a room, how they move around the building and so on. Well, how often the facility manager or VHR manager have the time to go through all those graphs and come up with solutions for optimizing space, optimizing flows, minimizing energy consumption, and so on? Not often, because the amount of information is so large that it's almost daunting. Okay, to figure out how to maximize the efficiency of building. Well, now with AI, you can define the parameters, you can define the strategy, you can define the policy and procedures of a building, how it being used, and based on that, AI can either take action or propose to a decision maker a new strategy with what will be the benefits very clearly defined.
Of course. Awesome. Makes a lot of sense. Let's zoom out. Looking ahead to 2025, and beyond, where do you see BubblyNet headed? And any big bets you are making or areas you are exciting to expand into?
Yes. So in the next couple of years, I will see more and more adoption. I will see the technology becoming mainstream, and the bet. Well, the bet was on wireless, and in the last 5 years, we went. There are many regions now in the U.S. that went from 3% wireless within buildings to 60% wireless. So the adoption of wireless controls is what we're experiencing is faster than what was the adoption of LED lighting from the old legacy incandescent and fluorescent sources. So that was the I would say the most important bet for us, and to stick to that no matter what, no matter clients saying, well, but I want also this area of the building being wired, or but I want to have an hybrid solution and so on. We say no, we want to focus and specialize just on that technology. AI for sure, it's a big chapter, and the big I would say the big bet probably 2027 and beyond is going to be on how we can embed AI at the edge. Because if we are able to embed AI at the device level, then most of the liabilities that you can read on newspapers and talk shows and so on about AI going rogue and so on are going to be much more confined, because now you have a solution that is at the device level, is air gapped, so it's not connected to the cloud, has not external connection, so physically no cyber attack, it's going to be very, very difficult to interfere with the proper operation of the building. To get to AI at the edge level, we require ways to compress, ways to optimize, ways to minimize the footprint of what is today AI. No, it's not going to be an easy challenge, but I think that could be very, very beneficial to all of us and mankind in general.
Fair enough. Any international scale deployment?
Yes. So we are already doing international scales deployment. We were doing right now a large resort in the Caribbean, and we've been doing here and there projects in Europe. When we were talking about what are the challenges and what is the friction, for sure, this is a technology that is getting better and better, but still you don't want to go to a market without having a partner that is local and can support when needed. So far we didn't find the right partner for Europe. We have several partners in Asia, but I would say Europe will be for sure a market that we would like to attack in the next coming years. We've been always present. There is a big show every 2 years in Frankfurt, Light and Build, that is all about buildings and the best of the best. And we've been there since 2018, presenting the technology and showing what we can do. As you know, it's very difficult to work in America if you do not have an American infrastructure. As well, it's very difficult to work in Europe if you do not have the right partner in Europe. So definitely, I would like to find the right partner so that we can have a very cool expansion application in Europe as well.
That makes sense, obviously, for sure. Do you think the industry is catching up to the vision you had when you started?
Um, yes, and there is some very interesting activities in terms of state and federal. There is code requirements that are becoming more stringent, and we have been doing some very interesting application cases for different school districts, talking about sound masking to reduce distraction for the students, as well as making sure that you never go above a certain level of CO2. And I would really love to contribute to education, not in terms of content of education, but in terms
Oh,
of environment for education, making classrooms a better place to 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 receive knowledge. And there is several university studies relating percentages of CO2 in the air with reduced scores in exams and tests. So the fact that, particularly in California, the fact that school districts start considering let's have CO2 sensors, and of course, you can connect that CO2 sensor with a sophisticated HVAC system. Of course, it's going to be probably beyond what is your typical school district budget. But CO2 sensors nowadays are pretty inexpensive. And if those CO2 sensors are connected to just a light or just a change color on a wall by defining which level of CO2 you have in the room, then it becomes pretty simple. It's like grandma all good practice in the morning. You open your windows, and same thing. If you have 20 kids, 20 teenagers in a small classroom, they're gonna burn out that oxygen in no time. So once you are able to relate to, students are falling asleep with, my CO2 is above 2,000 parts per million. Well, open the window and experience that. It takes probably 45 seconds to a minute to get that, recirculated, and you close the window again, and now you have a much more lively classroom. So I would say, yes, those are the kind of applications that I really would love to make a reality for school districts, for federal authorities, and so on.
yeah, right. And it comes down to my question: what would you love to see shift in how we think about smart spaces overall?
Yes, and if you look at the vast majority of the buildings nowadays, the functionality is pretty much the same functionality we had, 3,000 years ago in Europe. You have an envelope that protects you from the bad weather, and you have some light, so you are not strictly related to the cycle of the seasons and the cycle of the sun. That's pretty much it. Well, we no longer have a wood stove. We have a highly efficient, heat pump or whatever. But the functionality is still the same. And after 3,000 years, I really would like to see something new. And the something new is, the different type of lighting can create different effects. within a building space is completely different. Everybody knows that kids that go outside are more lively and more and smarter and so on. Well, sometimes you cannot do that, but you can have the same effect in their bodies that you will have by having them outside. Inside, providing the lighting is a lighting that emulates with circadian lighting. Lighting emulates what the sun does, and providing that fresh air, or never going above a certain threshold of poor air, so that now you have those benefits that are again common knowledge in terms of kids education and so on. And similarly on healthcare, it's known that recover after surgery happens in a predominant way during deep sleep. Deep sleep is the moment. Typically, you have 3-4 slots of deep sleep during the night, and at that stage of sleep is when you are rebuilding tissues and rebuilding organs and so on. Well, that this sleep it's a function of the air quality that you have in the room where you sleep, the temperature in that room, the fact that you didn't got you didn't got any kind of blue spectrum, melanopic frequencies on your lighting, at least for 3-4 hours before going to sleep, and making sure there is no unfamiliar sounds that are going to move you from deep sleep to a REM state. Still sleep, but it's going to kick you out from that area of sleep that makes you rebuild those organ and tissues. So these are the kind of things that right now they are a little bit still esoteric, and they are not really clearly defined. But there is studies, and we even did studies here in our company. From we have a typing contest, typing contest, and on a room, and we increase or decrease CO2 levels, and you see people going slower on a keyboard. So imagine if you get slower on a keyboard, for sure you're getting slower on everything else. Or I had we tested cortisol levels on a few employees that were using specific blue lights before going to sleep, and after a few days they couldn't sleep at all. They were having nightmares. They were showing up in the office totally exhausted, demonstrating that if your lighting by your bed lamp has these frequencies, it's gonna be impacting the quality of your sleep. So I would say there is a lot that we can still develop, a lot that we are going to learn in the next few years, but definitely it's a fascinating endeavor, to really take technology at the service of humankind in this way.
Very well said. And yes, it is fascinating, and it's very interesting to have this kind of conversation. And before we wrap, I always like to end with something a bit more personal. When you reflect on this journey, especially the mission behind BubblyNet, what's keep you going?
Well, Laurent, we are blessed to hit this planet for a short time, and of course, at the beginning, you need to take care of your immediate needs, and but after that, I think it's pretty natural that you start thinking, well, I have kids, they're growing up, what am I going to leave them? What I'm going to leave behind? Can I leave this planet slightly better than the planet I inherited? I've been blessed with an amazing life. I enjoyed the company of many, many incredible people, and if I can just do a little something, just to leave to my kids, my friends, a better place, that feels better than $1 million in the bank account. That's for me anyway.
Of course. Very well said. That's beautiful. And if someone listening is an emerging funder in this space, what advice would you give them, especially when trying to balance innovation, ethic, and business?
Go for it. Our civilization, all the good of our civilization happened because of entrepreneurs and founders and researchers and people that really put out there that impossible goal and work at it. So it's very rewarding. It's also a very good way to challenge yourself. Is there are going to be plenty of difficulties. There are going to be plenty of challenges, but it's like for anything. You want to do a sport at the professional level. You want to be a top artist. Whatever you want to do is going to have challenges. I would say that in this technology, in this space, the impact that we can generate on the trajectory of this world, it can be sensible. So I would say, go for it, and all that pain, all that grind, it's going to be well worth, down the road when you're going to see the fruits of your work.
Yeah, you're completely right, and yes, I love it. Remind me the quote of Richard Branson saying, "Fuck it, let's do it." Yeah, go for it. Exactly. Yeah, tell me.
Yes, sometimes it's going to happen, and you just need to do it, no matter the odds, no matter the financials, no matter yes, it's yes. I think it's very well said by Sir Richard Branson.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Where, if anyone of our audience want to get in touch with you or your team, where can they reach you?
Website is BubblyNet.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Fabio Zaniboni, BubblyNet is on LinkedIn as well. And if you are in town, we are here in the Tampa Bay area. Please stop by. We can show you in person some of these cool technology.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to be the first one to join. Fabio, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you again for joining us and sharing your perspective. Really powerful stuff. Thank you very much.
Laurent, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. And that's it for today's episode of the AI Interconnect podcast. If you enjoyed it, share it with someone who is building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you.